Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikon here coming at you with another video, and welcome back to the best video games of 2017. Because despite the fact that we've had to talk about all this nastiness that has been happening over the past couple of weeks with loot boxes, predatory microtransactions, and all this other bullshit around in the industry, make no mistake, people, as I've been saying throughout my last couple of videos, 2017 has been one of the best years in a long time when it comes to video games. And in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 games that unfortunately did not make my final top 10 list. This doesn't mean that these games are not good. These games were friggin' fantastic. Otherwise, I would not be talking about them. But it is important that we establish that 2017 has been such a great year in video games that it's just like, for me to pick my top 10 was really hard. It was excruciatingly hard. Not only that, also actually ordering the top 10, it has been like insane. I'm still changing the order every now and then. I still go in there and I'm like, no, this game deserves to be a little bit higher. No, so it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle, people. But these are 5 games that unfortunately have not made the list, but nonetheless, they most definitely deserve an honorable mention among all of the games that were released in 2017. So we're going to be starting with Elite Dangerous. And I know a lot of you guys are going to start crying foul. This game didn't come out in 2017. It came out in 2013 or 14. I'm not entirely sure when the actual release date of the game was, but it came out in 2017 for the PlayStation 4. It was also the first year that I got around to playing it. And on top of that, it was one of the years where they started adding a bunch of new content to the game in the form of Thargoids and a lot of other things that they've been working on. And it's like, it's impossible for me to talk about 2017 and not talk about Elite Dangerous. Like, I've literally spent over 300 hours playing this game. It was one of the best experiences that I've had in gaming this year, without a doubt. So for those of you who don't know about Elite Dangerous, it is a space simulator type thing where you basically, what they do is they give you a ship, they give you 1,000 credits, and they tell you, there's the door, out there is space, space stations, other players, other things that you can interact with, and go on and have fun. And you guys know that I like it when games just kind of unleash me onto a world and let me have my own fun. And god damn if I didn't have my own fun in Elite Dangerous. For those of you that have any kind of knowledge of Elite Dangerous, I played that game up to a point where I got myself an Imperial Cutter, which is currently, as of this video, was the most expensive and also the most, the ship that was able to carry the most cargo in the entire game. And I won't say that the entire experience is flawless. As a matter of fact, I made plenty of videos criticizing some of the things that they do in that game, but none of the things that they do is predatory in nature. There are microtransactions in there, but it's the kind of microtransactions you go in and you're just like, okay, I want to paint my ship red or something, and you go in there and you get yourself a red paint or a ship kit or something like that. So it's everything in the Frontier shop as of this video is strictly cosmetic, and none of it comes on a goddamn loot box. Thank God for that. Yeah, you guys know it. I'm gonna keep bringing it up, but ultimately it is, of all the space simulators I've ever played in my entire life, which arguably were not that many, this one is the one that I've had the most fun in. And I know that a lot of people are going to be talking, well, Rurikon, just wait till Star Citizen comes out. And I'm like, Star Citizen? You mean that game that's selling people land and procedurally generated planets? That game that's selling people spaceships for thousands of dollars? Yeah, right. No, bro, I like my games not to be pay to win. Thank you very much. And Elite Dangerous is most definitely not pay to win. It is also one of the best experiences I've had in gaming in 2017, and I could not, you know, do a best of series without talking about that game. Next up, let's talk, and by the way, I'm not presenting these games in any kind of order because since they're not a part of the top 10, it's just like, whatever. To me, the 15 games I've liked most in 2017, they're pretty neck and neck when it comes to ordering them in terms of which one's better, which one's worse. So on the honorable mentions video, order is completely irrelevant. Anyway, next game I'm going to be bringing up is Resident Evil 7. And a lot of you guys might be surprised by me making an honorable mention for this particular title. There's multiple reasons for that. Now, first of all, let me tell you, Resident Evil 7 is not the kind of game that that is a part of my repertoire. It's not the kind of game that I enjoy playing. It's not because I'm scared of horror games, it's just I actively don't find them fun and entertaining. So how come Resident Evil 7 receives an honorable nomination as one of the best games that came out in 2017? Well, for starters, it innovated a lot. It managed to get out of the rut that it was in between Resident Evil 5, which was not a bad game, and Resident Evil 6, which kind of was a bad game. And it managed to step away from all of that and get back to its roots of what Resident Evil is, a game where you're supposed to be scared, where you're supposed to actually feel fear instead of just shooting things in the face and not having to worry about it. So they've managed to innovate on a lot of things in that game. They managed to create an extremely immersive experience from a visual standpoint, particularly from an audio standpoint. The audio in that game is just like, it will drive you fucking crazy. But on top of that, it also manages to tell an interesting story. And one of the main reasons I wanted to bring it as an honorable mention, because I'm a big fan of VR, even though in my opinion, VR is not there yet on any device. Like, the device that I personally prefer is PSVR because there's a lot of experiences there, but it's just VR is not there yet. We need to go further. You need to make the devices more user-friendly. You need to make the devices just work better for people with glasses, which none of the devices really does a good job of, if I'm to be completely honest. And we're not there yet with VR. But the best game to play in VR is, without a doubt, Resident Evil 7. If you have PlayStation VR, that is like the game to play. Okay, you have like PlayStation VR Worlds and whatever. You have the other one that I like very much, Battlezone, which is all fine and good, but like the game to play VR is Resident Evil 7. And you are going to shit yourself. No, in all seriousness, Resident Evil 7 is a pretty good game, and even though it's not my kind of game, I can recognize it is definitely one of the best titles that came out in 2017, and it is without a doubt the best virtual reality title that I've played thus far. Now, the next game that I'm going to be bringing up, a lot of people are probably not going to agree with me, but it is The Surge. That's right, The Surge. I like The Surge a whole bunch for a lot of reasons, while I still recognize it is not nearly a perfect game. As a matter of fact, it became quite frustrating closer to the end because of the way some of the boss fights worked and the way that just the gameplay mechanics kind of worked near the end of the game, which in my opinion was kind of cheap because they were really pushing the whole thing where it's like, oh, you turn a corner and boom, you're dead. They really pushed that a little bit too much to the point where it felt unfair. And that's when I kind of started like, oh man, the game's not that great. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't make the final top 10, because there are a lot of really good ideas in The Surge. And a lot of people are just gonna call it, oh, The Surge is just like Dark Souls, just a Dark Souls clone, just a cop-out, just this, that, and the other. And to be completely honest, The Surge actually does a lot of things better than Souls, and particularly when it comes to the upgrade system. The upgrade system in The Surge is really good because you don't have to grind. Whereas in Dark Souls, usually you will have to, I mean, depending on how many weapons you want to upgrade and all that, of course, because usually you will receive enough, you should receive throughout just regular playing each of the Souls games, you should receive enough stones and whatever, shards, that's the name, I almost forgot the name of it. You should receive enough shards to upgrade like 2 to 3 weapons and probably a 1 full set, 2 full sets of armor. In a full playthrough, that's usually how much you get. And then if you want to go past that, you're going to have to go and grind some stuff. You're going to have to go and grind Titanite shards and large Titanite shards and Titanite chunks, and then eventually Titanite slabs. And Titanite slabs are a pain in the ass to get. Same thing with Bloodborne as well. You get enough to like 1, 2, maybe 3 weapons if you really stretch it out. But beyond that point, you're talking about grinding. And when it came to upgrades in The Surge, I never really felt like I was grinding because like, well, I want to upgrade this weapon. I guess I got to go chop someone's right arm off because that's going to give me the material. I mean, it didn't always give you the material, but like the percentages were probably like in the 90% or something. So whenever you chopped someone's arm off, if they were of appropriate level, they would most likely give you the materials that you needed to upgrade either your arm pieces or your weapons if you chopped the right arm off. And if you chop their legs off, you could get materials for your leg piece. If you chop their head off, you would get materials for your helmet. And to me, that worked really well. Not to mention it also brought dismemberment to a genre that I really like playing. And as you get, I guess some of you guys don't know, but I really like it in video games when there's dismemberment because I don't know, there's just something viscerally satisfying about that. Maybe I'm just a really sadistic fuck. I mean, I don't want to do any of that shit in real life, and I don't want to watch any of that shit happen in real life. I think that's fucking sick. But in video games, it's very satisfying to like, you're fighting against an enemy. Maybe the enemy's really tough, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna cut your fucking legs off. And you can actually do it. And it's very satisfying. You can also chop their arms off, chop their head off. And you know, that kind of dismemberment gameplay coupled together with the typical Souls action and also just the variety of builds that you could still do. You could still do like heavy type builds with hammers, and you could do builds that were more about, you know, dual weapons, and also the versatility that you had in configuring your character and all the options that you had with the mod chips that you could install onto your character's suit. Even though there are a couple of things in there like the way that some of the suits are hidden was sometimes a little bit not too clear, which made me skip some things and eventually go back and try and figure out where they were because it was not blatantly obvious, and it kind of should have been because it's a main part of progression. But still, I found the experience overall to be very satisfying, with the exception of what happens at the end, because unless they balanced it out already, when I was playing it at the end, it was basically like, look, dude, just put all of your chips into health and potions, and that's it. So whereas like before we had like all of these different effects that you could have, like whenever I kill an enemy, I get healed up, or whenever I do I don't know, a dismemberment thing, something will happen, or I want to get stamina regeneration so that I could do more things. In the end, it was literally just like, look, they just get as much health as possible because every enemy hits like a goddamn truck, and if you don't have tons of health, you're going to die a lot. And even still, after doing that, I still died a lot. So, you know, that's kind of how I felt about it, and that's kind of probably one of the reasons why it doesn't go into the actual final top 10, but ultimately, it is most definitely a game that is still worth your time. Regarding the upcoming DLC they're doing, I'm not a particular fan of the theme, which is like animatronics in a theme park. I was like, it kind of feels like I mean, the story was not its best aspect, but still, you know, going that route, I don't know, I just kind of felt like it wasn't that great. Anyway, next game that I want to bring onto the honorable mentions list is Absolver. Absolver was one of the really cool action games that I've played this year. It is not necessarily not a game that requires you to invest a lot of time to get some enjoyment out of it. Then again, it was also not a game that came out at like full 60 or something. I think you'll probably be able to get it at a discount, like 20 bucks, maybe 30. I don't know how much it costs right now, but it was kind of like not a full priced game. And at the same time, it managed to bring in a really in-depth combat system that you could really tell that it was not just about mashing buttons. Like sometimes players like to say that, oh, when there's a complex system, that I can just mash buttons, kill everything. Dude, you are not mashing buttons in Absolver, okay? Trust me on that. And it required a lot of skill in the way that you also acquired skills, which was by blocking your enemy's moves, learning how to actually do that, and just the animations of the game, the overall art style, it felt good. If a little bit short, it felt short. But at the same time, it was also a game that had seamless multiplayer where basically players would go into your world. You could play offline if you wanted to, but you would also have players join into your world. And it was this awkward situation when you had another player in there because you didn't know. This player could be trying to dick you over, he could be trying to help you out, and it creates that interesting dynamic. It's almost like a Dark Souls invasion of a Mad Phantom. Like usually, unfortunately, in Dark Souls 3, most Mad Phantoms would just be there to fuck with you, but Mad Phantoms would have the chance to actually help you out. So Absolver, that's kind of how it felt. Whenever there was another player in your world, you're like, well, he can be helping me, or he can be getting ready to dick me over. You never really knew. And he could actually do both. Like, he could help you kill an enemy, then turn around and kill you. So there was that tension in there, and I always found it to be somewhat satisfying so long as I wasn't facing off against someone that was clearly much more skilled than me, which happened quite often. Although, I also should say that on a lot of times, because of sheer skill as well, I was able to take on 2 players simultaneously while being able to hold my own and taking one of them out, and then eventually I think I got killed by a boss that showed up behind me or whatever. But you could definitely tell that there was a lot of skill, there is a lot of skill involved in Absolver, and it is one of the best games of 2017, hands down, which is why it doesn't make the top 10, because like getting to the top 10 was really hard, but it still deserves an honorable mention, and it was one of the best games that come out this year. So. And finally, the last but not least entry in the honorable mention section of the best video games of 2017 is Gravity Rush 2. And it breaks my heart that it doesn't make the top 10. Because it was in the list not so long ago. I gotta be honest, this particular game was in the list not so long ago, but eventually it got bumped down because of a new entry in that list that I'm sure you guys will be curious to know what it is, but I'm not going to reveal it on this video. But anyways, talking about Gravity Rush 2, it is a fantastic title. It is criminally underrated. I've said this time and time again. That title is really good. This game never really got its due because the original released on the PlayStation Vita, and we all know Sony did not properly or will ever properly support the PlayStation Vita. And this is being said by someone who is a huge fan of the PlayStation Vita. It's got fantastic titles on there. Gravity Rush was essentially a title that went onto the Vita and it just kind of died there. And even though they remastered it for the PlayStation 4, it never really got the attention it deserved. It has this unique mechanic as to how you navigate through the world, where you are essentially flying, even though it's not flying, as a lot of people like to say, it's falling with style. But the gravity shifting mechanic is extremely satisfying. The art style in Gravity Rush 2 trades a lot of the grays and yellows and just like damp colors that, not damp, what's the word I'm looking for? It changes a lot of the lack of color that you had in the original Gravity Rush. Even though, yeah, there were a couple of maps where you had a lot of nice purples, a lot of reds and stuff, but still, the colors in Gravity Rush, the original one, always felt somewhat dim, somewhat not vibrant enough. And in Gravity Rush 2, they completely changed it. It's one of the most vibrant looking games that I have seen this year. In terms of art style, it is beautiful. In terms of animations, it is beautiful. In terms of the gravity shifting mechanic, they introduced new powers in there, which are not necessarily super important, but at the same time, they add more depth to the combat and the story itself. I personally appreciate the story of Gravity Rush 2. I like it a whole lot. I like the protagonist. I like everything about that game. I think it is a fantastic game, and I think rather than being too worried about all these loot boxes and microtransactions and all these other games that are coming out right now that are just completely and blatantly built to exploit you and get every single dollar off of you, seriously guys, consider just getting a game from this list if you guys want to like actually play a video game where you don't feel like you're getting ripped off every 5 minutes, okay? Let's bring a positive force to gaming. These are the honorable mentions of 2017. I really wish I could put them on my top 10, but like I said, it was a really, really tough year when it came to making it my personal top 10. So just once again, if you guys didn't pick up everything, Elite Dangerous, Absolver, Resident Evil 7, The Surge, Gravity Rush 2. These are all video games that really deserve your attention. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.